and it's irritating. They're still all smashers, so I don't know what that tells you, but I really enjoyed them. Hello my loves, and thank you for joining me. It's Kirsten and we are doing my August read and wrap up. I can't believe we're at the end of August already. It's gone so fast this year, but let's go through all the books that I've read and whether I would smash or pass. I don't actually do star ratings, so I just tell you whether I would smash or pass these books and give you a bit of what they're about. Let's start off with the DNF. There's actually been a couple DNFs. So the first DNF that I had is Casil's Servant, and this is by Jacqueline Carey. I was reading this as an ebook and I was buddy reading this with Chris. I will have her channel linked below, and unfortunately I ended up DNFing. I think I got about halfway through this book and I was enjoying it because it's almost like a reread of her first series that I ever read by her, and that is the Cashel's Dart trilogy, and I really enjoyed that trilogy. It's a political, historical fantasy and I really enjoyed it. There's not so much magic or anything involved. There is some, but there's not loads. It's definitely more political fantasy, but with courtesans and stuff, so it's a little bit spicy. And I loved this trilogy. Something that I read and devoured when I was at college and just really enjoyed it. It was a good escapism. And so when she came out with this book, which is that first book, Cashel's Dart, but from the male's perspective, Joycelyn, it just didn't really work. I really liked the start of this because we were seeing Joycelyn becoming a servant of Casil, which is basically like a very posh bodyguard, and you're seeing all of his training and everything they went through, and I really enjoyed that. When it got to the parts with him and the main character from Cashel's Dart, which is Deirdre, I then started losing interest because we weren't getting any of the political insights that we would with Deirdre, and there is reasons behind that. He's very lost, he's not political minded, all of these different things, but for me I just found it a little bit lacking, and so it was like a reread but a lesser reread, and I ended up DNFing, unfortunately. The other book I DNF'd was actually the book club pick for my Discord, and that is Immortal Longings by Chloe Gon. I really couldn't get into this one. I read the first 7 chapters, so I got to page 109, so I did give it a good 100 pages, but I just wasn't interested in this book. It didn't grip me in any way, and I found it to be very info dumpy. Lots of this information to do with the politics and things, which is interesting, except it just kind of got dumped on a page and it didn't make sense, and I just didn't really enjoy it. This is kind of like an urban fantasy Hunger Games. The magic in here involves people being able to use their inner energy to jump into other people's bodies, and it's very gritty and dark, but I just didn't care about the characters, and I gave this a break for a week and found that I didn't even want to pick this back up, and so I decided, you know what, it's not for me. And actually a lot of people on Discord, we've had a few people that have DNF'd it, a few people that find it boring, a couple of people have managed to struggle through it, but even then it's not anything that they would go, oh, this was a really good read. So unfortunately this one didn't tick the box, so this was another DNF. But a book that I'm in the middle of that will be carrying on. Oh, so by the way, DNFs are passes, so just in case we were wondering there. But a book that is so far a smash, but I am halfway through, so I'll be continuing this into September, is The Pillars of the Earth by Ken Follett. I'm up to chapter 7, page 425, and this is another Discord buddy read. This is something we're doing over 2 months, reading 2 chapters a week, and my gosh, are they long chapters. But this is really good. I'm really enjoying this. It is so good. It's dark and it's gritty, and we follow lots of different perspectives, but they flow really well from one another, and I can just say that chapters 5 and 6, oh my god, I just, Elena, I feel for her. I feel for her so much. We're following a few different characters, but everything is centering around this cathedral that is wanting to be built. We have politics to do with God and politics to do with positions of power, the way those two cross over, the difficulties that we have with it. We have questionable human morals that are going on and the questionable decisions that are being made. There is a lot of trigger warnings. I think the most specific one that I've had is the sexual assault trigger warning, and it's graphic. So just prepare yourself for that, because that was a lot more graphic than what I was expecting. It's such a good book. It is so well written. It is a book that, yes, the chapters are really long, but when I pick it up, I don't want to put it down. I think it is so well written, and I really like the way it's exploring religion, the way the Bible can be interpreted in different ways, and how that has a knock-on effect because of the way we interpret things. And I am really enjoying this. I'm also really enjoying the architecture side of things. We are following a mason, and obviously he wants to build a cathedral, as you learn a lot about architecture, which is something that I genuinely love in books. I don't know what it is, but I really enjoy it. I find it really interesting, and so yeah, I'm really enjoying this one and looking forward to continuing on. So far this is a smash, but it will be continued on. And then the other ebooks that I read for this month are all part of the same series. I say other ebooks, so I had the one DNF, and then I have read 4 ebooks. Well, technically I'm in the middle of one of them, but that is the Magnolia Parks series. So I have the first 2 books as physical copies. I'm just going to say smash. Like Magnolia Parks, Daisy hates, absolutely love them, both smashes. This is a messy rich people drama romance series. In Magnolia Parks, we're following Magnolia Parks and BJ, and it is a messy love affair if there ever was one. Magnolia Parks is very vain and vapid, obsessed with fashion, kind of like those parts, I'm not gonna lie. Then Daisy hates, we have Daisy, she's very smart, but again still very messed up love situation. But in Daisy hates we get 3 perspectives, whereas in Magnolia Parks we only get the 2. There is crossovers. These take place at the same time as one another, but I still recommend reading Magnolia Parks first. Some of the things that you have happen in Magnolia Parks get mentioned in Daisy Hates, but it's not actually explained, and I think it just makes more sense if you read it in the order it's meant to be, like 1, 2, 3, 4. That being said, the other 2 ebooks are of the same series, so I also read Magnolia Parks A Long Way Home, another smash, continuing on with the messiness. The ending of that book though has left me needing that 5th book, and I say 5th book because, as I mentioned, 1 and 2 take place at the same time as one another. It's the same with 3 and 4, so it's going to be the odd numbers that progress the story onwards, and so I have to wait for that book, which is being published in February next year. So you can guarantee I will be getting that book and reading it as soon as it comes out, because that ending was just heartbreaking. It was so good, but I'm really enjoying this messiness of this whole series. And the 4th book I'm in the middle of at the minute, and that's Daisy Hate, The Great Undoing, another smash. All of these books are smashes. Can I say that they're the best written books ever? No, they're repetitive, there is issues with the writing, especially in the last 2 books. I've been noticing words that are the wrong words, like the wrong pronouns been used, or you're having, like there was one particular sentence where it said a, something a, and it was one of the A's were meant to be 2, and it was like, it was the wrong word that we used, as in T-O. 2 instead of A. So these books do need a good old edit. They're repetitive, they're ridiculous, but they're also so addictive, and I read this as I was hitting a fantasy reading slump, and it was exactly what I needed to pull me out of that reading slump. And I want to get all of these as physical books. I want them on my shelves. I want them as things that I will reread and annotate and just read when I need that pick me up, because these are so good. And the thing is, I couldn't tell you why they're so good, because they are repetitive. There is editing issues with it. You know, there's irritating things that happen in both the books. In Magnolia Parks, the amount of brackets that were used unnecessarily is unreal. In Daisy Hates, there are so many footnotes. I mean, the footnotes goes with who Daisy Hates is as a character, but still, it's a lot. And some of the language that's used, like they say oi repetitively, and it's irritating. They're still all smashes, so I don't know what that tells you, but I really enjoyed them. Moving on from there, we have the rest of the books that I've been reading. So I had a 24-hour readathon, which is my bi-monthly Tackle Your TBR readathon, all about rest, relaxing and reading. In that readathon, I did read Oscar Wilde, Lord Arthur Saville's Crime. This is a smash. I really enjoyed this. I thought it was absolutely hilarious. I liked the way it took the mick out of aristocratic society and how ridiculous it is, and I really enjoyed it. I thought it was fantastic. This was really funny. Only short, only 50 pages long, but really good. In that readathon, I also read Lost in the Moment and Found by Shauna Maguire. This is the 8th book in the series, so I'm now up to date with that series, I think. Love this series. I think it's fantastic. All the even numbers are kind of like prequels to characters that we've met in the odd number books. So this is the way with children's series. It's a portal fantasy series, and we're following children that have tumbled into these worlds where they belong and what happens when they come back. I really enjoy these series. The odd numbers continue on with this kind of like the first book is like a bit of a murder mystery that goes on, and it continues on with the plot line. And then the even numbers, as I explained, they're a bit more prequels of the backstory and the different worlds that different characters have been to that we meet in the odd numbers. This book is a bit of a darker topic that it faces, so each book does tackle a particular topic that the author is exploring. In this book there is a content warning at the start of this book because it does look at grooming. It's not explicit, but it is implied, although Antsy, our main character, does run away before anything actually happens to her, but the content warning is in the front because, as the author said, they wouldn't want to go into a book without knowing that that was in the book, so they put the content warning there. And I think that was really good. But yeah, absolutely loved this book. I love this series, so another smash. A pass, How We Fall Apart by Katie Zhao. I liked this. I actually just finished this 15 minutes ago. It was okay. The ending was really predictable. It's very similar to One of Us is Lying. I liked the look into pressures that parents put on their children to be the best, to not really follow their dreams of being like artists or poets and stuff, but instead they've got to be lawyers and doctors and things like this, things that are really high achieving people. And while yes, it gives you stability in life, it doesn't give you the satisfaction of life and like the happiness that goes alongside it. And so you see in this group of friends that are all struggling from the pressures that their parents put on them, and they all have different secrets to help them get to the top, and what does it cost them. It is also a bit of a murder mystery because we had the best student was killed off and they're being blamed for it, and so they're trying to work out who's actually done it, what's going on, why are they being blamed, who's blaming them. It's interesting, it's fast paced, it's an easy read, but I wouldn't reread this, I wouldn't carry on, it's not really my cup of tea. But if you enjoyed One of Us is Lying, I think you would like this. I felt the same way with One of Us is Lying, where I was like, I couldn't really get into this. And so, yeah, unfortunately How We Fall Apart didn't really work for me, but I really enjoyed the look into the pressure and having to juggle being perfect when we're only human and nobody's actually perfect, but having that expectation of you must be perfect, and how that just honestly can cause a person to crumble. So I enjoyed it for that, but otherwise, yeah, this is a pass. The actual YA thriller side of things, I didn't really get anything from. Another pass is actually one that is so disappointing to me, and that's Codename Sailor V. I read this as part of the 24-hour readathon, and unfortunately this just wasn't for me. So I ended up DNFing this book. I should have put that in the DNF pile. Never mind, it's here now. And it was a shame because I was really looking forward to this. I've grown up with Sailor Moon, like the anime show. Like, I loved it. It was one of my absolute favourites, and I've slowly been reading the Sailor Moon manga, and I saw this and I was like, oh my god, I really, really want it. I'm gonna give this a try. It was a really expensive edition as well, but I love it because it's great. It's big, it's easy to read, the artwork is stunning. Unfortunately, I really didn't like the messages in this, and I went into this more in depth in the actual readathon, so I'll have that linked below if you're interested. But there were just certain messages that were put forth in this book that I didn't enjoy. Now, yes, it can be argued that this was wrote in the early 1990s, and obviously views back then were different to how they are now, but this really hasn't aged well. It is so dated, and I just couldn't enjoy it because of that. After the second volume, because this is the bind up of the first 8, I think, I just kind of flicked through the rest of them because I really felt uncomfortable, and unfortunately I think I'm probably just gonna pass this one along. Yeah, I really didn't enjoy it, and I'm so gutted about it, but this is a DNF and a pass, but never mind. Thankfully, the last few books are all smashes. I definitely think this month's reading's been a lot more mixed. I feel like the previous month was all smashes. I had such a good reading month, but this month's been a bit all over the place. That being said, I did find a new classic book that I really enjoyed, and that's Picnic at the Hanging Rock. This is by Joan Lindsay, and I really liked this book. It is a really weird, unusual book, and that's something that I can say that they're my trigger words, they're my buzzwords. I love weird and unusual books. I love books that really make you think about what is going on and kind of leave it up to you to decide. So in this book, we're following a all-girls school, and they're going off to have a picnic at Hanging Rock, which is in Australia. But while we're there, we have 3 students that go for a walk, and also a teacher, but only one person comes back and they don't know what's gone on. The girl that left with them won't answer questions, she doesn't know what's going on, she can't remember what's going on. It's kind of left for you to decide, like, does she actually know but doesn't want to say, or does she genuinely can't remember? We start following different people that are in and around the disappearance of these girls and what's going on, the effects it can have on different lives, the knock-on effect. I loved it. I thought it was so good. There were so many amazing quotes in here, and like I say, it does leave it up to you to decide at the end what actually happened. It's a mystery that doesn't have a conclusion. So if that sort of thing bothers you because you like everything to be tied up nice and neatly, you're not going to get that from this book. But I think it was so good. Like, it's a book that I really like. I like it when things are left open for discussion, open to interpretation. I really enjoyed it. There were definitely elements where you could argue, is this more magical realism? Is that what's going on with this story? There are elements where it could just be a straightforward murder mystery or disappearance mystery and we're trying to work out what's going on. Like, there are so many different elements to this book and I really enjoyed it, and I loved seeing the disintegration of certain people. It was fantastic. It was a great book. I thought I would enjoy it, but I enjoyed it more than what I expected to, and I'm very intrigued to read more by Joan Lindsay and just see what other books that they've written and see what I think of them. But this was really good, and it was a perfect time to read it. I read this over 2 days and it was really hot 2 days, which is perfect because you've got a really hot sticky summer going on in this book, and it's so good. The descriptions of it were amazing. That's something I actually annotated. This is one of the few books I actually annotated for the month, and I think that's also lending to my reading month. I find that if I'm annotating books, I'm having a much better reading month than if I don't annotate books. But at the same time, I'm not going to annotate books that I felt a bit like meh about. So anyway, the annotations of this book, only 3 different tabs. This is a short book. It's only it's less than 200 pages, 190 pages. So I had grey for like the mystery of what was going on. I had green for nature descriptions because the descriptions of nature were absolutely stunning in this book. And then I had this kind of pale orangey colour, and that was for just quotes that I love. It was really good. I really enjoyed this book, and I know upon reread I can definitely pull more from this book, which is definitely what I enjoy, and that's why I like books that are so open-ended. Going in, depending on what you want to focus on at that time, you can find different things to support your different theories, and I love that. Anyway, I've talked about that one a lot, but it was really good. I also read Dead Man Wonderland Volume 1, and I'm buddy reading this with my partner. So he really likes manga. I starting to get into it. Like, I like to read it to break up what I'm reading every so often. I especially like them for like my 24-hour readathons. This one is a interesting one. We're following a main character who gets accused of murdering his whole classroom. He then gets sent to prison, but this is a really unusual prison. It's a private prison that puts on games for the entertainment of others to bring money back into Tokyo. Think like Squid Games. Really brutal games. And so that's what this first volume is doing, is just setting up all of that. And I am enjoying reading this with my partner. So we're going to carry on reading this whole series, and I'm looking forward to doing that. So Smash, by the way. More of a lighter Smash. Like, I enjoyed it. It was a fun time. Another solid Smash, though, is Vera Wong's Unsolicited Advice for Murderers by Jessie Sutano. This was so good. It was so much fun. I wish I'd annotated it. If I'd used a tab for moments that this book made me laugh, I would have run out. It was so good. It was so funny. So we actually have multiple different perspectives in this book, which I wasn't expecting, but I really enjoyed. But the main perspective we're seeing is Vera. Now, Vera runs a tea shop. She is an elderly Chinese mother. She runs her tea shop. She is very set in her ways. She knows the things that she wants, and she's just an amazing character. But one day, someone turns up dead in her tea shop, and she decides the police are going to do a rubbish job at this. I'm going to be much better at solving this than them. And so that's what she sets about doing. And she tampers with evidence, and she gathers people together that she thinks are her suspects, and it's so fun. There's a bit of a found family going on in this. We see characters really grow into themselves, which I really enjoyed. There were moments in this book that I would have underlined and tabbed if I had been tabbing, where it just focuses on not apologising for yourself, not belittling your achievements and stuff. I thought it was fantastic. It was such a good book. Is the murder mystery side of things a bit predictable? Yes, I did work out what was going going on. It took me a little bit, I'm not gonna lie, but 3/4 of the way through I'd kind of had a suspicion of who I thought it was, and it turned out I was right. But I have to admit, I read this book for the fun time of it, the found family, just the laughter side of things. Like, it was so heartwarming and lovely and really nice to see all these characters grow into themselves, all because of this one woman. It was so good. I really enjoyed it. Definitely one of those like cozy mysteries. Nice cup of tea with this book and you'd be sorted. So yeah, really enjoyed this. And then of course, arguably one of my favourite books this month, Engines of Chaos by R.S. Ford. This is the second book in the Age of Uprising trilogy. I think it's going to be a trilogy. There is a third book that is being written because we have an excerpt of it. However, it's not actually anywhere. Like, if you try and search anywhere online, it just says this is a duology. It's very much not. It leaves in such a cliffhanger. This book is so good. This is like almost like a steampunk fantasy, and we're following a family. That's our main perspectives in this book. We get more characters in the second book, but in the first book we're mainly just following this family who are a part of this empire, and through the different perspectives you see different things, from the politics to the atrocities that this empire is creating, to labeling other cultures as demonic just because we don't agree with their practices, different things like that. I think this book was really good. I loved the first book, loved the second book. It is such an underrated series. More people need to read this. It was so good. This book does get dark though. In the first book it's more setting up the world, we're getting to learn different things, learning our characters. In this second book things get dark really quickly and it's heartbreaking. None of your characters are safe. They're all in a really bad position. Every time you think, oh, they're about to get good, oh okay, they're gonna finally have a break. No, think again, it's all gone wrong again. It is so good. And it keeps me so hooked, and I really cannot wait for this third book. It is so good. Highly recommend. If you're looking for a new fantasy series, pick this up. It is so good. I loved it. It's definitely a new favourite fantasy series for me. There is so much going on. Give it a try. It is so good, and more people need to read this one. It's good. It's brilliant. I loved it. But let me just double check. That's all the books I need. There is one book I forgot to talk about, and that's because I gave it back to Eric. But at the start of this month, I did read Last Argument of Kings by Joe Abercrombie, and this is the third and final book in the First Law trilogy. I really enjoyed this one, so we're going to give it another smash. I think out of the two big fantasy books that I read this month, I preferred Engines of Chaos, but I enjoyed it. It was still a really good book. However, it is a trilogy that has no plot at all. It is all just vibes. It is just following three main characters who make really questionable, morally grey decisions constantly, and it's about them trying to survive in this really dark, grim world. And honestly, the end of the book, you could just restart from book one because it's an endless cycle, and that is the way it ends, is that is possible. Just change the names of the characters a little bit and you could just restart, and it just shows you how cyclical nature is, how history just repeats itself, how things, like, is there any real point to things? And that is what makes you question is, you finish the book and you're like, well, what was the point? But that is the point. It makes you question what is the point of everything that's going on. And I really enjoyed it. I thought it was really good. It's definitely a series that I would reread, but not anytime soon, I think. I liked it a lot, but it's definitely one that I would reread like down the line. There are other books. You've got two standalones. There's also a separate trilogy that takes place like 100 years or so afterwards. So I would be interested and I may pick them up, but I wouldn't for a little while yet. I think I'm really happy that I read that trilogy. Really pleased with myself for actually completing a series this year. Finally getting there with the series. Okay, finishing one. It's not made a massive dent in the series that I'm reading, but anyway, I am pleased that I finished it. I thought it was really good. I liked the characters, but it is the characters that make it. So if you don't like the characters, or you're more of a plot-driven reader, you're not going to enjoy this series. But I really liked it, and Glockter, still my favourite character from that series. He is a torturer that was himself tortured. Thought it was really good. Really enjoyed his questions. Like, he would question himself and be like, this was done to me, so why do I do it to others? I really enjoyed it. I just thought his perspective was really good. Definitely my favourite out of the whole series. It's a good series. If you like the darker, grittier fantasy, then give it a try. But as I said, there is no plot at all. It's really going to make you question what is the point. But that is it. We're at the end. I feel like this month's reading has, like I said, it's been a bit all over the place. I think Being in a fantasy reading slump didn't help either, which is unfortunate, but it's not been terrible either, so, you know, it's not too bad. Let me know, what was your favourite read of August? Have you read any of these? Do you agree with any of my thoughts on these? And I think we're gonna leave it there. So thank you so much for watching. If you have made it this far, then honestly, I can't even think, so just put a book stack emoji. Let's keep it nice and simple. A book stack emoji if you made it this far, and I'm going to go and have some lunch. So, thank you so much for watching. If you have enjoyed this video, please do give it that thumbs up, subscribe and comment. Those 3 things really help this channel grow. My social media links and anyone I've mentioned will be linked below, and I will of course catch you in the next video.